Hello, buddy. If you're new to the channel, my name is Eric Navas, and this is UBF Cult. This is technically an anti-UBF channel. That's what this is. So before I get started with the video, so what I'm gonna do from this video and this point on, basically, is to put a link in the description of another video where I talked about the upload schedule, like when do I upload videos. And that way I don't have to keep repeating myself every single time. I already said in previous videos. I'll just put a link to that video in the description below. That's what I'm doing. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about UBS Double Standard, calling slash using the cops on ex members and current members. Why is this a double standard? Because in UBF's own theology and doctrine, specifically in Genesis 16, how they teach about Abram, before he became Abraham, and how he committed an act of compromise because he wanted a son. So he used Hagar in order to conceive a son. Thus Ishmael was born. And then how they teach how when you commit compromise, that's wrong. Not only it's wrong, but it's not of God. So the question, I'm going to ask this question and just something to think about throughout the rest of the video. So the police, cops, is it from God or Satan? Right? Now before you answer that, just watch the whole video before you answer that to yourself or to anybody. Throughout UBF's history, throughout UBF's documentation, their stories, testimonies, etc., they always talked about cops in a very negative way. They always displayed them as agents of tools of Satan. So then, if that's the case, why would they use Satan's own tools on ex-members? If I remember correctly, how this goes is that, if you are God's servant, you're supposed to use God's instrument against Satan and his followers, not Satan's own instruments on his followers. Because by doing that, by using his instrument, you're accepting the hand of Satan. And by doing that, you're committing an act of compromise. Not just an act of compromise, but you're, in a way, making a deal with the devil, if that makes any sense. So why do they do that then? So when UBF does that, it really shows their true colors and how members, by members I mean like the missionaries and like the seniors, how they would try to justify doing that. That is saying that, oh, they're in physical danger. They're in physical danger. That's one of them. The other reason, is that, oh well, we need to basically teach the molesting thing. And that's the problem with. And here's the problem with those justifications. One, even if you are in physical danger, why don't they teach themselves how to defend themselves? That makes no sense. Because I remember correct. If I do my research correctly, some UBF missionaries actually know how to defend themselves. Some of them have done kickboxing, like the older missionaries. I don't know about the newer people. So why not just take classes to kickboxing with it? I thought that was weird. And also, why would you need to be worried about your physical safety if you will never lose God's salvation? I thought that never made sense to me. And the second part is to teach them lesson thing, but good, shouldn't God alone be the one doing that? Right? Now, to get rid of Satan, or what is evil or unholy, as they call it. Then you're supposed to use something holy, and kind of reminds me to the Bible passage where the teachers of the law were talking to Jesus, and they accused him of being a demon because he was casting out demons, and Jesus was explaining to them, demons can demons are not going to cast out their demons because Satan will destroy his own kingdom. That makes no sense. So only someone holy or God Himself can cast out demons. So my theory is that that's the logic they're using to justify why UBF, like missionaries and seniors higher ups, would threaten to call the authorities on members and ex-members. But like I said earlier, that makes no sense because by doing that, you're committing an act of compromise, and compromise is not of God. So using something of Satan to serve God, that makes no sense at all. To really stop to think about it. Furthermore, also using the authorities to take care of any problem, that's basically something something the teachers of the law, the Pharisees, Sadducees would do. Because if I remember correctly, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments or message me, is that that's what teachers of the law were trying to do to Jesus, where basically they try to have him arrested, but they do it in the open because it will make them look bad. Look bad. There was this one incident where they were going to ask him, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar, right? And how they brought the authorities there so that they can try to, basically trick Jesus, right? And Jesus' response was very, very clever. It's one of the best answers from God I've ever seen. But yeah, that's why it doesn't make sense. One of those double standards. And also, something to note is that whenever they do that, whenever UBF uses the cops or makes threats of using the cops against members and ex-members, is that when they do that, they always do it against those that are colored. I know there's one case where they did threaten someone who was white, but for the most part, as far as I know, whenever they use that threat, I'll call the cops card, they always do that to those who are colored. I know a few stories that happened. I personally experienced that when I was there. And final note is that whenever they do that, they always do it in secret. They never publicly talk about it whenever they do it. And when I talk about it, I'm talking about like in their testimonies or etc. like that. They never say that. In the sermons, missionary will never say, "Oh, I threatened to call a cop somewhere." They never do that. So just keep in mind that. So how they twist the story up, they'll say, "Oh, I was threatened and I had to defend myself." That's what they'll say. They'll never say they've ever used cops before, because they know that because they deep down they know it's bad. And one of the things that Jesus talked about is like those who are those who use the darkness, and I'm just paraphrasing, so I'm not quoting exactly, but how those who use darkness would do things in secret and not openly because they're actually deep down they're ashamed of what they're doing. They know what they're doing is wrong, right? So that's more or less end for the. So that's pretty much it for this shorter video. So yes, UBF missionaries and seniors do call the cops, threatening to call the cops on members and ex-members, specifically those who are colored. They never mention that in their sermons or in their testimonies. They'll never say that I've done that. They'll never do that. So even though they do it, they will never openly admit that. They'll just so you ask them, they'll deny it, or more likely they'll just change the subject. And when they do that, they actually commit an act of compromise. That's something to keep a note of. and it's something I want to really bring up. I regret what I regret was not mentioning this a lot earlier. Yeah, and this is something I've not really seen people talked about. But yeah, UBF themselves actually use use cops, even create connections with cops against members, but they'll never openly admit to doing so. So that's more or less it for this video. There's another video coming up where a current member, yes, a current member, requests to do a video about the good and bad UBF. And that video is going to take a little longer because I have to, for me, it's difficult to see the good in UBF, the good in UBF, so to speak. So how I'll do the video is I'm going to talk about the good slash original intentions UBF, and then bad, the bad UBF and how it derailed from the original intentions. So that video is going to take a little longer because I have to do some research, and there's also some sources that I'm going to use, such as a documentation by a UBF missionary who wrote about the history of UBF back in the 90s, and there's also another UBF missionary who actually talked about the good and bad of UBF in a letter to Downey UBF and all of the other UBF missionaries. I have to find that. So yes, that video is going to happen, but it'll just take much longer because I need to put everything together. So that's it for this video. Any comments or questions? Leave in the comment section down below. And until next time, stay safe.